All right, Lisa is going to take us through the paper piecing, and I'm going to hold the camera.
So we're going to paper piece the ducks. So first you're going to make copies, 2 copies of the duck. I like using the Carol Dokes newsprint. It just tears away easy. So then after you make your copies, make sure it was copied at 100% size, and then you can cut your pieces apart. So after you cut your pieces apart, go ahead and trace the lines on the back side. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Don't get the ruler out. It's just to help you position and to know what number is next and where it is. Then the next thing I like to do is I like to sort my fabrics according to the piece. Now, these background pieces are all very close in size, but it does matter. So be sure to double check the size that you have, the C2 size and the C2 place and the C4 size and the C4 place, etc. So the reason the pieces are called A, B, and C is because you're going to create them individually. When each of the units are a paper piece, then all 3 of them get sewn together. You'll sew the bottom, or A to B, and then the AB unit to C. All right, let's get started. So let's start with A unit. It is the bottom portion of the duck. So the first on the A is A1, which is our brown body. So I'm going to go ahead and position him right, so make sure that it's a 1/4 inch coverage on all sides that brown's going to be at. So that's a good coverage.
And it's on the drawn side.
Yes, not on the printed side. And you would have the right side up. With the batiks, it's hard to tell which is the right side up. So I gave up trying to guess. If one side is shinier than or less dull than the other, that would be the right side, dull side down. Okay, now our next piece to sew would be the line between 1 and 2. Well, we can't see that. So I like to pre-cut my 1/4 inch seam. So how we do that is we flip it over, we find that line, and I'm going to tuck my pin out of the way. So I'm going to find the line between A1 and A2, which is right there. I'm going to take my card, put it right on that line, and I'll fold my paper back. I like using the add a 1/4 ruler. It has a little lip that catches on the card, so you're sure to get your 1/4 inch line. You don't have to use an add a 1/4 ruler. You can use any ruler and just line up your 1/4 inch. I just find I go very fast with the add a 1/4 inch ruler. And then we're going to just trim that piece away. Now I can have my 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I can line up my next piece. So my next piece, it had, in the cutting instruction, it had a square with a line through it, and that is the triangle. So I'm going to line my triangle, and then I like to audition it. So I pretend I seamed it, and I fold it over, and I want to make sure that I've got everything covered. So that seems a little on the skinny side for me, so I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. I think I'll be happy with it there. Now, a lot of times you can pin, and I might pin this one, but the small pieces I feel like I can hold in place, and I don't bother pinning, but that means I have to seam it more often if I miss. And so now we're going to flip it over, and we're going to sew on that line between A1 and A2. Oops, I don't want to go too. And now I'm going to press that down. Now if you have a little iron, that's handy. I mean, by all means, you can use the iron, but I just tend to use my fingernail. Now our next piece will be A3. Well, it's really hard to position, so let's pre-cut our 1/4 inch seam again. So we're going to flip it over to where we can see the line. Lay your postcard on that line and fold back your paper. Add a 1/4 inch ruler, goes right up against that card, and then trim away. And now you have your 1/4 inch seam. and we're ready to line up our next piece. I pretend I sewed, so I flip it over to make sure everything's going to be covered. I think that's going to be pretty good. I might bring it down just a little bit. That looks very good. All right, if you want, you can add a pin. Don't have to. I think the small pieces are easy enough to hold. Flip it over to see what's next. We got 1, 2, 3. We have a little piece, A4. So by all means, we're going to pre-trim again. So you put your card on the line, fold that piece back. We have a little square. This one is so small, you just really have to check it. Okay, that looks pretty centered. Then you flip it over and sew on the line again. Our next piece to add would be A5. So we're going to lay our card on the line, fold that paper back, pre-trim our 1/4 inch seam, and now we're ready to add our A5 piece. So pretending I sewed, yep, that's going to cover just nicely. So now I'm going to go ahead and sew it. Okay, this piece is now done being pieced, so I'd give it a good press with my iron, and then we're going to trim it over, and you'll trim on the outside line, not on the inside, but on this outside line. And then at this point, it's up to you whether you want to take the paper off or wait until you sew it to your other units. I find I can align it easier if I take the paper off, but other people find that it aligns easier for them if they leave the paper on until the very last second. So totally up to you. The other pieces are just the same, so we'll put it on high speed, and if you want, you can watch how to put those together too.
Sit back down with it. Go.
All right, my pieces are trimmed. So you can choose to sew your pieces with the paper just by lining it up, or you could take your paper off and then line it up. But you would sew B to C, this is C, right? A, B to A, and then that becomes one piece. And then you would sew the last piece on C to your AB unit. And it is just as cute as can be.
Then you're going to sew it to my block.
Yeah, then I'll be sewing this to Laura's block that she put together. So if you decide that you can't stand paper piecing, oh, please don't, I'll fix something else. You can either draw a duck and do this as an applique, or we have another free block on our webpage. It's called Lovely Weather for Ducks. It is another 12.5-inch square in the same fabric line, and you could substitute that block for this one. And it would be easy peasy, more applique. All right, we'll see you in the next video.